Welcome to a new season of the Fierce Authenticity podcast. If you're a returning listener, then welcome back. I want to let you know that every time you tune into an episode of the podcast, you're saying yes to yourself, and you're letting the universe know that you're serious about showing up as the best version of yourself. And if you're new, then I want to extend a very warm welcome to you. If you're a woman of color in a position of leadership, then you are in for a treat. Around here, we don't BS, we keep it real, and we're talking about things that matter and why they matter and how they pertain to you, all based on my signature framework of fierce authenticity. To learn more about the Fierce Authenticity Framework and receive a free mini audio training, then I invite you to head on over to www.fierceauthenticity.com/start here, where you can download an audio training completely free. And while you're on that website, be sure to check the box that says, yes, you would like to receive emails from me. And that way you will get into our newsletter community where you get access to bonus episodes I don't share anywhere else, invitations to community-only events such as coffee chats and Ask Me Anythings, and also invitations to anything that I'm offering or doing, in addition to having a place where you can share your voice and contribute to the community. So again, that's over at www.fierceauthenticity.com/start here. Now, with all of that said, I want to take a moment to reintroduce myself. It's been a while since I've shared about who I am and what I do and why I'm here and why it matters. I'm Shirani M. Pathak, and I am an author, speaker, and transformational leader. I do consulting, coaching, mentorship, and more. And on a personal level, I'm also a tech wife, a dog mom, and a member of a spiritual recovery program. My background is as a relationship therapist, and here's the topics that I absolutely love talking about: human relationships, emotional intelligence, authentic leadership, and how our culture of patriarchy, supremacy, and contempt has shaped the way we view ourselves as women of color and the way we view each other. Which is why this podcast matters. A lot of people out there only want to talk about surface level stuff. They just want to talk about the fluff, and they don't want to take it deeper. Well, around here, we talk about all that hard stuff. I love taking us to deep, deep places in super quick amounts of time. And I just love it. Being in the depths, being in the shadows, it lights me up, and there's nothing else I can say about it. I just completely love it. And so here, like I said, this is a no BS place where we talk about these things that matter. We talk about the hard stuff like patriarchy, supremacy, colonization, and contempt. And we do it with an emphasis on the BIPOC experience, especially the BIWOC experience. Our experience as women of color is unique. And while anyone can listen to the podcast, I'm really talking to women of color in leadership, because when we understand where we've been, we can change the trajectory of where we're going and create the world we truly want to see. The world that we want our children, our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren, and beyond living. Us BIWOC are strong, powerful women, but our culture of supremacy, patriarchy, and contempt benefits from letting us believe otherwise. In the first 44 episodes of this podcast, which is the entire first season, starting with episode 0.0, going up to 26.0, including all of the love notes scattered in between, we have laid the foundation of the work that we're about to do. In these episodes, we talked about the ways our culture has been built on the dehumanization of us for the benefit of others. In particular, the white supremacist patriarchy, which ultimately is based on contempt. And here's the thing. White supremacy doesn't only impact the way white-bodied individuals think. It impacts all of us. It's a sneaky little bugger whose malware code somehow got programmed into the systems of our psyche, and it is our job today to understand it so that we can eradicate it. And the funny thing is, when we do the work of dismantling and eradicating the system itself, we see that it's actually an entire system based on the premise of fear. And when we can see that, both within ourselves and in others, we can start to break down the walls we've built and have compassion, while at the same time holding people accountable. Now that's a skill that's difficult for most people to handle. How to hold empathy and compassion without giving up ourselves so that we can hold others accountable and responsible for their behavior. Good thing that that's part of what you'll be learning here in the Fierce Authenticity podcast, amongst many, many other things. The ground we've covered so far in our foundational season includes the history of how colonization and patriarchy have impacted how we interact with ourselves and others in our world. We talked about intergenerational trauma and how experiences get passed down, the impact that has on our nervous system, and ways we can regulate ourselves so that we can grow in our resiliency and heal. We also talked about the relational fuckery we engage in and liberation and what that means for you, for me, and for all of us as one collective human family. If you haven't heard previous episodes yet, I invite you to do so. They lay the groundwork for where we're headed, which is bringing all of these concepts into a more grounded reality. What it means for you as a BIPOC woman in leadership as you're moving through the world. We'll talk about how rest is a part of the rebellion, and that to heal the pain of the past, we have to first see it and accept it for what it is. We'll talk about the relationship you have with yourself and with the others around you, including source, self, spouse, society, and others. We'll talk about being human and the myth that you have to do it all. We'll talk about your stories, the narratives that you've been taught as a result of patriarchy, supremacy, and contempt. And we'll also talk about how to take back what patriarchy, supremacy, and contempt has tried to steal from you throughout your life, your mother's life, your grandmother's life, and many, many generations before them. I've got over a year's worth of topic ideas already written out that I am super, super excited to share about with you. And with that said, there's also going to be one major change as well. In the previous season of the podcast, I shared love notes, which were mini episodes with a healing message and practice that goes along with each solo episode. This season, love notes are no longer going to be shared publicly on the podcast. They're only going to be available to members of my private newsletter community. My private newsletter community is completely free and is where you'll receive these bonus episodes and healing practices, as well as invitations to my community members only quarterly coffee dates and Ask Me Anythings. My private email community is also where you'll get invitations to other programs, services, and offers before anyone else. And one added bonus of being in the newsletter community is that you get to share your voice with me. You'll get to give your input on what you'd like to see from me, from the podcast, from the services I offer, and from the community. If that sounds good and you want to be a part of an awesome community, then head on over to www.fierceauthenticity.com/start here to join in. I hope you decide to join me there. And regardless of whether or not you do, I just want to say I'm so grateful to be in community with you here. I'm also moving into this new season with permission to be human myself, permission to change my mind, and permission to switch things up. So these things might change because as we grow and evolve, what we do grows and evolves, and how we be in the world, it grows and evolves. So in the meantime, I just want to say again, thank you for letting me be a part of your day, part of your podcast subscriptions, and for sharing this space with me. There's one resource that's precious and valuable that you can never get back, and that is your time. So I'm truly honored that you're here and sharing your valuable and precious time with me. My prayer for you is that you may be happy, you may be healthy, you may be blessed, you may be well, and you may be free. So again, if you're interested in getting in on the community, head on over to www.fierceauthenticity.com/start here, where you can join in. And before we go, I want to give credit where credit is due and acknowledge all the support that I have in making this podcast possible for you. Starting with Diego, my podcast editor, who makes this sound amazing and has done the custom music that you hear in the podcast. Next up is my assistant, Ana Olvina, who makes all of the beautiful quote graphics you see and who prepares the transcript and the blog that's available so that you can have a written copy of this podcast. Jillian at Epoxy Studios, whose beautiful photography of me is our cover art. And lastly, I want to acknowledge Source, Spirit, Mother, Father, God, Goddess, Divine, the divine wisdom that flows through me to bring these messages to you. Thank you again so much for joining me. And next week, I am so excited for the episode where I'll be introducing you to Krishna Avalon, and we are going to have a beautiful, sweet, gentle, yet oh so fierce conversation about being a woman of color in leadership and what we need to harness so that we can return to our power and take back what's rightfully ours. I look forward to being with you next week. Take care.